recent challenges that I have for the Chicago Bulls is, can they win the week? And last week they went 3-2 over their 5 games over the course of the week. There were some serious red flags that were raised as well. Slow starts, sloppy finishes, and the margin for error is shrinking by the day when it comes to the Chicago Bulls team. We're going to talk about those things today. We're also talk about Buzelis bulking up and one of the challenges that Billy Donovan has for him as well. And we're going to preview tonight's game against the Pelicans. All that plus a little bit of the mailbag right after this. What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host there, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go ahead and get into this content today, y'all. And so one of the things that I've been, the way that I talk about the Bulls is, can you win the week, right? Is how many weeks can you win? Meaning that I know the Bulls aren't going to win every game. They're not going to win every game that they should win. They're not going to lose every game that they should lose. But throughout all of those, the ups and downs, can you win the week? And how many weeks that you can win is a big telling part of it. When you look at the Bulls in their 5-game losing streak, they weren't able to win the week, over that time period. And so that was a tough stretch for the Bulls. They started off on a 5-game winning streak as well, where they won a couple of weeks. Now it comes down to, you're in the season, you're in the reality of it, right? The Bulls have won 3 out of their last 4, 3 out of their last 5 games, all those games occurring last week. We had losses to Utah and Miami, wins over Denver, Portland, and Washington. The wins over Denver and Portland are good wins. I think when you look at that Portland team, this is a really tough team. And, the way that they played the Bulls as well in the matchup, I know they're only 7-10 on the season, but, that offensive rebounding was such, like the Bulls shouldn't have won that game, but they did find a way to win it, right, which is solid enough. The win over Denver was a legit win. Yeah, it came down to the last-second shot, but it was a legit win, right? And then you get this win against the Washington Wizards, a team that you should have beat. You beat by 1 point, and that game comes down the stretch. They're learning the wrong things from the Chicago Bears organization, right? But the way that the Bulls have won and lost really highlights how that margin for error has really been shrinking for this team, mainly due to slow starts and rough finishes, right? And I want to talk a little bit about that. When you look at it, the Bulls are finishing on average first quarters on the season with a negative 6.4 net rating. That's how much they are getting outscored in the first quarters of games. And it's such a hard thing to overcome when you get out to slow starts. That's why, even with you look against the game against like Washington, for example, they did get out to a pretty large deficit to start that game off. They finished it, though. They were down by 1 in that quarter by the end of that first quarter. And then, things went the way that they went. But you got to be able to play tough. You can't keep starting off. You can't both start weak and finish weak. And that's really what's been the Bulls have been getting exploited by the worst. You also look at the fourth quarters as well. The finishing fourth quarters with a negative 7 net rating. So when you combine those two things, you're starting between the start and your finishes, you're almost negative 14. That's difficult to overcome. And keep in mind, this is different from plus minus. This is net. So there you go on that one. But for reference, for example, the Chicago Bulls are plus 5.6 in second quarters and plus 0.5 in third quarter. So, they're winning the second and the third quarter. They're just not able to overcome the weak starts and slow finishes, right? Now, when you look at it, for example, I want to reference this with last year. Last year, the Chicago Bulls were a top 10 team in both the third and fourth quarters as far as net rating. They just were, right? They were one of the best fourth quarter teams in the game of basketball. They were the best third quarter team in the game of basketball, especially after the All-Star break. So the Bulls at least finished strongly, right? Like, we didn't always start the best in some of those games, but we were consistently a strong finisher. Those first and fourth quarters could be what absolutely dooms the Bulls, and they have to get at least one of those things fixed. They have to get that fixed. Now, could they improve the slow starts with Coby White being back in the starting lineup? And once everybody gets healthy, let's hope so, right? Like, Coby White is a really good scorer that's going to, help provide some more open shots for his teammates. He's been passing the ball really well since he came back as well with the Chicago Bulls. So hopefully that's going to be something that the Bulls can look to start correcting, especially when you're in this stretch against teams, so many teams that are below 500. this is where you want to start building up the confidence. This is a really good stretch as well to get your starting lineup back out there, your projected starting lineup back out there, and allow those guys any kind of humps, any kind of things they need to get over. Allow that to happen this week. It's a short week, only 3 games this week. You play Monday, then you don't play again until Friday. You have a back-to-back Friday and Saturday. So, use that time to kind of overcome some of these things that have been plaguing you for the season, because it's definitely there. And there's just no doubt about it. The numbers are glaring in regards to that. The Bulls are one of the worst first quarter teams in basketball, and they're the worst fourth quarter team in basketball. So you have to be better than that. And of the teams with winning records, the Bulls are worse than that. They're 24th in net rating in fourth quarters. You got to be better than that. They're 20th in defensive rating, 25th in offensive rating. Fourth quarters have not been favorable to the Chicago Bulls team at all. First quarters, you're 20th in offensive rating, 21st in defensive rating, but you're 19th in true shooting percentage, so it's not terrible there, right? Those are things that you can improve on. And so I think you got to get that out of the first quarter so far. The Bulls are the record's 9-7 on the season, and they've lost more first quarters than they have. Now, for what it's worth, they've started shrinking that margin. Over the last 5 games, the Bulls are a negative 0.2 net rating, so still losing first quarters, but they have closed that gap a little bit. They're 7th in offensive rating in first quarters as well, still 22nd in defensive rating, but you're starting to see the things over the last 5 games of the first quarters improve. In the last 5 games, the fourth quarters have gotten worse. Over the last 5, the Chicago Bulls are negative 19.2 net rating, 27th in basketball in the fourth quarter of basketball games. You have to tighten that up. I'm glad to see that they are making improvements in first quarters, because I do think a solid start is really good. You're still solid in the second and third quarters in these games as well. Over the last 5, you get those, you get a better start. You could be there, but almost negative 20 net rating in fourth quarters is unacceptable for a team that is telling us they are aiming to be a playoff team this year. It is unexcusable for that. Just period. You cannot close games that badly and then still try to tell people that you are aiming to be like, I believe them that they are aiming to be a playoff team, but it's going to be hard to believe that you're going to make it to be one if you have fourth quarters that are that bad. So the question now becomes about how much of that can the Bulls still correct, this season. There's a lot of runway left this season. You're getting players back healthy. Zach Collins could be back, after Thanksgiving, maybe that first week of December, we can get Zach Collins back. Kobe White's already back. We know we're missing some players for tonight's game. We'll talk about that when we preview it, but that's an opportunity, an area where this Bulls team can continually improve. The games this week, right? The Pelicans, the Hornets, and the Pacers. Those are the teams that are on the schedule for the Bulls this week, and you have to ask yourself again, can you win the week on this one? Can you win at least 2 of these games this week? The 3 teams that we're facing this week are combined 60 and 42 on this. I mean, not 60, 6 and 42 on the season. They only have 6 wins between those teams. You got to be better than that. You got to come in here. You got to be prepared to win some basketball games today. Like, hopefully you're able to do that and ready to do that, because I tell you what, if the Bulls can make a little, hopefully they can go 3-0 this week. I'm not betting on that. I wouldn't bet on that, right? You come out of this week 12-7, you put yourself in a pretty damn good position. So, we'll see if the Bulls can do that part of it. But, overall, you got to lock in here. You got to lock in. You got to be ready. You got to be prepared in this game. And if you're not, it's going to be ugly for you. So let's see what the Bulls can do. I'm going to keep out some hope for this team overall. And I said 6. The combined teams are 8 and 62 on the season. So, there you go on that one. Like, you got to just be ready. Be more ready for this than what you've shown. And if you can win the week this week, you can come out of this with a pretty solid record. And then, we then go into December, start a new month, and see what this team can start building and start hopefully stacking. At that point, you're a lot more complete of a roster. You got everybody back healthy. The role players have really kind of all settled into their role so far this season. And we'll see what the Bulls can do and what they can achieve so far this year. Let's hope so, man, because this is the stretch. This is the important one. This is the stretch. And I know people are going to say, "Oh my God," but they're cool. They beat all the bad teams. Guess what? That's what good teams do, right? You want to beat the bad teams. You want to be the team that's able to beat those bad teams, because every team in the league puffs up their win total by taking care of business against the bad teams in the league. And that's what the Bulls have to try to do in this case now, right? They're in a spot where they have an easier schedule. They have one of the easiest schedules remaining in basketball. Go out there and take care of business against these teams, win another week, and then let's see where we're going to be. Moving from that, right? I do want to move into another topic. Joe Cowley, as much as Joe Cowley can be a bit of a hack as a writer at time, he had a pretty interesting article on Haize Buzelis. He focused a lot on Haize Buzelis adding 10 pounds of muscle this offseason, which is really good. It's good and you can see Haize definitely looks like he puts on weight, no doubt about that, right? But for people that were thinking that they were going to see a superstar type leap, which there are literally people that are like, oh, he's going to be a star this season. It's been a little disappointing for those people when it comes to Haize because, again, expectations can be the thief of joy sometimes. And I think sometimes that we don't see or acknowledge that Haize has exponentially grown as a basketball player. And you're seeing it. The way that his shot selection now, he's about 50% of his shots being created for him, 50% of creating his own shots. That's really good. That's where you want to see him be at, right? Is near 50-50 on that because the type of guards that we have and him playing with energy, you want to see, he's going to get a lot of shots created for him, right? But, in this article, he talked a lot about Buzelis taking steps and some quotes from Billy Donovan. Billy Donovan talking about this when it comes to Haize Buzelis. A lot of times people look at Buzelis and see the running, the jumping, the handling, and that's all well and good. But the minute physicality gets into the game, that stuff is out the window. People aren't just going to let him play in space and run around, which I do think is something that we're seeing from Haize. People are going to hit him, and the people are going to be physical. I've said before the season started that this will be a great year of growth for him because he's going to see what he hasn't seen as a rookie. And you are seeing teams defend Haize Buzelis differently, right? You are seeing things aren't as easy for Haize because he's not catching people off guard anymore. Now, for what it's worth, Haize is still averaging 14 points, almost 6 rebounds per game, which is really good. We wanted that rebound number to get up. When you have your guard averaging 10 rebounds per game in Josh Giddey, we got some really solid rebounding guards overall. Some of that's going to be deflated a little bit, but he's rebounding pretty well. His rebounding rate is solid enough, right? Again, per the not per the averages, but per what you're looking for this team. He's shooting the 3 ball at 36%. He's shooting, 46% from the field, and he's gotten his blocks up to almost 2 blocks per game. He's been over 2 blocks per game for the last almost 10 games, but he's at 1.6 for the season. Haize Buzelis is growing as a basketball player, and you're seeing that out there. But one of the things that Billy Donovan has challenged Haize, and you're clearly seeing, is when players get physical with Haize Buzelis, that is where you can throw him off his game right now. And that 10 pounds of muscle that he added is helping him finish around the rim tougher and stuff like that. But he still needs to learn, and I think that's a mental part of the game, is dealing with physicality better, right? And for what it's worth, Buzelis said this: of course, I always think I can do better, but now it's a little tougher because I'm on the scouting report. I can tell for sure. Most of the time, the best defender is guarding me, and that puts a target on my back. I like that. That's how I'm going to get better and stride forward. And that's the thing that I love about Haize Buzelis. He takes every challenge to the chin, meaning that he doesn't back down from anything. Yeah, teams are guarding him differently. Yeah, teams are putting some of their better, perimeter defenders on him to push him away from the rim. Good. That means that teams are noticing what the impact that you can have for this team at. Now you just got to get yourself together. And Billy Donovan talked about that as well, saying that there are times he's got to put his body between himself and the basket. There are times he will jump to block shots, and it opens up gaps and driving angles to the rim. The consistency of going to the glass on both the offense and defensive glass, he's got to be able to go. When you start going and you start grabbing rebounds, teams are going to put a body on you. How well can you fight off that stuff? And that's what it is. This was always going to be a season of growth for Haize Buzelis. And I get it. The expectations were high. The excitement was very high around Haize Buzelis. I understand that. No doubt about that. Be excited about the player on your team. I'm glad that we have a player that Bulls fans are basically almost universally excited for. Even the more pessimistic Bulls fans like a Matt Peck is always excited about a Haize Buzelis, right? And I think that says a lot about the growth that Haize has shown, all those type of things. Haize is playing really well as a player right now. Now it just comes down to those little in-between things and how much of that he can. There's a great quote from Billy Donovan on that saying, yeah, you go for a block, but now because you left your feet, you've got a lane open to the rim. And those are just things that come with time. Those are things that come with execution. Those are things that will come with the game slowing down to you. Haize is going to get there. I have no doubts about it. Haize is one of those people that I have faith that he's going to learn because of the way that he attacks the game, his mentality when it comes to basketball, how much he loves this sport, all those type of things. I trust that Modest is going to figure it out because Modest wants to be great. Modest wants to truly be a great basketball player. Not just good, but he wants to be a great basketball player, but he also cares about winning more than any individual thing. And those are the type of players that you want in your organization, especially as you're trying to change the culture. So, I just wanted to talk a little bit about that article. I give Joe Cowley a lot of crap because he writes a lot of crap, but this was a pretty damn good article from Joe Cowley on this one. With that said, let's move into the preview. The Bulls take on the Pelicans tonight, and on surface level, this should shape up to be an easy game for the Bulls. The Pelicans in 2-15 on the season, but you can't just look at that. They are 29th in net rating at negative 12.9. They're 28th in offensive rating, 27th in defensive rating, 29th in true shooting percentage, 28th in assist percentage, 18th in turnover percentage. But listen, this is a team that if you looked at this stats and the ranking around the league, you would see, hey, this should be barbecue chicken. They're 24th in rebounding percentage. These are all things that should play into the Bulls' hands. But when you look at the minutia, right, the individual, this is why you got to sometimes go outside the stat sheet. This is a team that has two players on it that are going to be matchup hell for the Chicago Bulls. One of those guys is the rookie and Derek Queen. Derek Queen is absolutely cooking right now. And when you look at what he's done over the last few games, Derek Queen has put the league on notice, put everybody that passed on him, including the Chicago Bulls, on notice. The last 3 games for Derek Queen, the last 3 games, he has had 30 points, 9 rebounds, 20 points, 7 rebounds, 11 assists, 20 points, 9 rebounds, 3 assists, a block, and 2 steals. That's what he's done in his last 3 games. This is a player, especially with how soft our center defense can be. Derek Queen is coming to make some noise today. And the Bulls got to really be prepared for that. You cannot overlook this rookie because he could be an absolute matchup nightmare for the Chicago Bulls. But wait, there's more, because then Zion Williamson is also not on the injury report for the Pelicans today. And that means that he's probably playing today, which is another player that presents a matchup nightmare for the Chicago Bulls. We're not even getting into the other players that could, especially Jeremiah Fears, if he gets hot, Jordan Poole, which I don't think Poole is playing, but again, another player that can get hot, Herb Jones, Trey Murphy III. Like let's talk about it, right? These are players that absolutely can cause the Bulls nightmares. And we know that we are susceptible in a team that gives up big scoring nights for players that are like that. So listen, I don't care about the Pelicans record. Ball that record up, throw it out the window. The Bulls need to come in this game prepared. They need to make a statement on the boards and on defense. You got to do that first, because this is a Pelicans team that is going to keep throwing physicality at you. They're going to get physical. And that's where the Bulls haven't necessarily fared best so far this season. So you cannot overlook the Pelicans. Yes, you're missing Kevin Huerter. I'm sorry. Dalen Terry and Isaac Okoro are both out today. Kevin Huerter and Patrick Williams are questionable. So we'll see what that means for this Bulls team. But listen, how you handle Derek Queen, how you handle Zion Williamson, does Trey Murphy III get started and going off on you? All these things are questions that we have today for the Chicago Bulls team. And the Bulls need to be prepared and ready for it, because this is a team that, despite their record, will come out and punch you in the face. So yeah, Jordan Poole is out. Herb Jones is also out today. They're both listed as out. So at least you can take their best wing defender in Herb Jones out. But listen, don't overlook Trey Murphy on the defensive side either. This is going to be a difficult game for the Bulls. Let's see if the Bulls can get it done. Let's start off this week with a win. Let's see what we can do. But all right, with that said, I do got one voicemail I want to get into. This one is from my brother Corn.
What's the good word, King Drip? It's your brother Corn, man. Hey, man, let's get right into this shit right the fuck now. These 2 games, and I know I'm late. I'm late as always. Apologies. These 2 games was very telling. These 2 games is telling me that something I already know, that we are very, very young and we still need to build chemistry. The ass whooping that we got from Miami was just It's just what that was. It was just an ass kicking. We was without, and I get it. Miami's always a tough matchup when it comes to us. Every fucking year. Khalil Ware is a monster, man. Shout out to that kid. The Washington Wizards game was unacceptable. That team should have beat us. They outplayed us. They outworked us. We should have lost to a one-win team. I'm still happy that we won 3 out of our 5. I'm happy that we're 9-7. I'm just nervous about our closing and just us actually having true chemistry and trusting one another. And last and not least, Kobe White. People was ready to chop Kobe head off yesterday. Guess what I'm supposed to do? I'm not. And you talking to the biggest Kobe hater. I am. I will admit that. I don't really shoot too much for Kobe, but I'm going to give respect when respect due. He had a bad game yesterday. That's okay. That's cool. People say trade him. No. People saying all this. No. I'm going to give Kobe grace. He's still under minutes restriction. He's still finding his rhythm. Let's give him 5 to 6 more games, and let's see what he can do. All right, King Drip, you already know. Love you. C-Red. Peace.
Yeah, I mean, there's the team is still learning how to win. They're still learning how to win consistently. The slow starts, the bad finishes, they got to get those two things, together, as I stated in the opening of the show. But the way that Miami handled us is definitely going to be triggering for Bulls fans, because look at how they've handled us in the play in the last few years, right? The Bulls ultimately, I think, and I know this may be oversimplification, they got to get better back to what it looked like they were at the start of the season. Playing connected, playing tough, all those type of things. You got to be able to get back to that. And hopefully, reinserting Kobe White back into the lineup more consistently, we start seeing a little bit more of that. I don't know if he's going to play the back-to-back Friday and Saturday with the amount of days they have between it, but other than that, we should get 2 Kobe White games out of these 3 games this week. Let's go out there and handle business. Let's take care of it. And then let's close out this holiday week really solidly and then go into December with a new, fresh energy. And, hopefully we're going into December with a above 500 record for the first time in a while. And then let's see what we can do outside of that. Because December 1st, you got Orlando. Then you got Brooklyn. Then you got Indiana. And then that's kind of the last stretch of easier games. Because then you go into that with 2 games against Cleveland, 2 games against Atlanta, Philly, Milwaukee. Those are going to be all tough games, right? So let's see what the Bulls can do in this one, man. And let's win the week. I think is what to say. Let's win the week, and then let's see what comes next after that. But that's my time for today, guys. You guys know I appreciate you so much, man. The Bulls won the week, but now it's time to tighten up, grow up, and stop playing with fire every night, because eventually you will get burned, and they already have to a little bit as well. Drop a comment with how confident you are heading into the Pelicans, Hornets, Pacers stretch of this week. How confident are you that the Bulls can come out of this winning the week with a winning record this week? But make sure you guys like, subscribe to the show as well. You guys can follow us at Bulls Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, bullscentralpod@gmail.com. And lastly, if you want to leave a text message and or voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We're the #1 spot for everything Chicago Bulls related, but that is thanks to you, lovely and beautiful people. And like I like to end every episode on, stay safe, go Bulls, and always see red, y'all. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.